She rose from her throne in shock. The queen recognized the human soldier as the battle's sole survivor. The ground was still shaking when I opened my eyes. Dust filled the air, and my ears rang with a high, thin whine that blocked out everything else. I did not know how long I had been lying there. I only knew that when I tried to move, pain shot through my side, and when I tried to call out, no one answered. My name is Daniel Voss, a corporal in the Human Expedition Force sent to hold the line at a place called the Hollow Fields. It was supposed to be a simple defensive stand, 3 armies working together against a threat none of us fully understood. Humans, the tall insect-like Skarn warriors, and the silver-skinned Yethyr fighters had stood side by side that morning, ready to hold a narrow stretch of red stone against an enemy that came from beneath the ground instead of from the sky. I remember the moment the earth split open. I remember the shapes that rose out of it, moving too fast for the eye to follow, tearing through formations like they were nothing. I remember shouting orders that no one could hear over the noise. And then I remember nothing at all, until I woke up alone under the twisted metal of a fallen transport, buried in silence. I pulled myself free, ignoring the sharp pain in my ribs. The battlefield stretched out around me, endless and still. Where there had been thousands of soldiers only hours before, there was now nothing but wreckage and smoke curling into a strange orange sky. I called out again and again, walking through the ruins, searching for any sign of life. No one called back. I do not know how long I searched. Time seemed to lose its shape out there. I found fallen comrades, both human and alien, but I found no one breathing. By the time the light began to fade, I understood something that made my chest tighten with a fear worse than anything I had felt during the attack itself. I was alone. I was the only one left standing on a battlefield built for tens of thousands. I kept walking, because stopping felt like giving up. And giving up felt like betraying everyone who had not made it. My radio was broken, my weapon was useless, and my supplies were gone. All I had left was my own 2 legs, and a stubborn refusal to lie down. I walked through the night, guided only by the dim orange glow on the horizon, and when morning came, I was still walking. It was on the 2nd day that I saw the ships. 3 dark shapes descending from the sky, engines humming low as they searched the wreckage below. I did not run. I did not have the strength to run, and some part of me no longer cared what happened next. I simply stood in the open and waited. The Skarn soldiers who found me moved with quick, sharp motions, their armored bodies catching the light as they surrounded me. I expected to be struck down where I stood. Instead, they stared at me for a long moment, as if trying to understand what they were looking at. Then, without a word, they lifted me from the ground and carried me aboard their ship. I was taken through corridors that smelled of metal and something like burnt earth. No one spoke to me. No one explained anything. I was brought before a set of tall doors that opened into a wide chamber, filled with rows of Skarn nobles standing in silence. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat their ruler. She was unlike anything I had seen in any briefing. Her body was covered in dark plating that shimmered faintly under the light, and her eyes were deep and black, holding a kind of ancient weight that made the room feel smaller just by looking into them. She was speaking to one of her commanders when I was brought in, her voice calm and measured. Then she looked at me, and everything changed. She rose from her throne so suddenly that the entire chamber fell silent. It was not a slow, dignified rise. It was sharp, almost startled, as if her body had reacted before her mind could catch up. The nobles around her turned to stare, clearly shocked by a reaction none of them had ever witnessed from their ruler before. She said one word, quiet but heavy with meaning. The name of the battlefield where I had lost everyone. Her commander answered quickly, confirming the reports, confirming that no survivors had been found on any side, human, Skarn, or Yethyr. She asked again, her eyes never leaving mine, demanding to know who I was and how I was standing in front of her. I did not answer right away. I was too exhausted, too overwhelmed by the sheer size of the chamber and the weight of her gaze. She stepped down from her platform, moving past her own guards without hesitation, until she stood directly in front of me. Up close, she seemed even larger, yet there was something in her expression that did not match the fear I expected to see from an enemy leader. It looked almost like recognition, like she understood something about me that I did not yet understand myself. She told me, through a device translating her words, that she had felt the battlefield fall. Thousands of her own soldiers had been connected to her, in a way I did not fully understand, and when they died, she had felt every one of them vanish at once. She said it was like losing pieces of herself all in a single moment. She had not expected to feel anything else after that. Yet something had remained, a single presence, faint but steady, moving through the wreckage long after everything else had gone quiet. She had sent her ships to find that presence, expecting a malfunction in their tracking systems. Instead, they had found me. She studied my face for a long moment, and I studied hers in return, unsure of what to say to a being who had spent years fighting against my people, yet now stood before me with something close to wonder in her eyes. She asked how I had survived. I told her the truth, that I did not fully know. I had simply kept moving, because stopping felt impossible. Her commanders whispered among themselves, clearly uneasy with how their ruler was behaving. She silenced them with a single glance before turning back to me. She said that she had been told humans were fragile creatures, easily broken, unworthy of the battles they fought. She said she had believed those words for a long time, based on reports from her own soldiers. Yet here I stood, having walked through the same destruction that had ended thousands of lives on every side, without armor, without weapons, without anyone to guide me. She reached out and cut away the restraints that had been placed on my wrists when I was first brought aboard. Her guards shifted uncomfortably, but none of them moved to stop her. She ordered them to bring food and medical care, her voice carrying an authority that left no room for argument. Then she turned back to me, studying me with an intensity that made it clear this was not simply curiosity. Something about my survival had shaken her deeply, in a way she had not expected to be shaken. Over the following days, I was kept in a private chamber aboard her flagship, tended to by quiet attendants, who said little, but worked carefully to heal my injuries. I did not know what would happen to me. I did not know if I was a prisoner, a guest, or something else entirely. All I knew was that the Queen returned often, asking questions about my people, about how we trained, about what kept us moving forward, even when everything around us had fallen apart. I answered as honestly as I could. I told her about the values we were raised with, about loyalty to the people beside us, about the simple refusal to leave a fight unfinished, as long as we still had breath in our lungs. She listened closely every time, her expression unreadable but focused, as if she were trying to fit new pieces into a picture she had spent years building in her mind. One evening, she came to me alone, without her guards, without her advisors. She told me that she had ruled her people for a long time, guiding them through countless battles, believing she understood the strength and weakness of every species she had faced. She admitted that watching me walk out of the hollow fields had challenged everything she believed about the limits of what a single person could endure. She said that from that day forward, she intended to look at humanity differently, not as a weak or lesser threat, but as something worth understanding on a deeper level. She said, "My survival had not only surprised her, it had forced her to question years of assumptions that had shaped her decisions as a leader." I did not know what to say to that. I was still a soldier far from home, uncertain of my place among people who had once been my enemies. Yet something in her words settled a quiet sense of purpose inside me. Whatever happened next, my survival had meant something. It had opened a door that neither of us had expected to find. In the days that followed, whispers spread through her fleet about the human who had walked alone through a battlefield built for thousands and lived to stand before their queen. Some looked at me with distrust, others with quiet curiosity, but none looked at me the same way they once might have looked at a simple prisoner of war. As for the Queen, she never fully explained why my survival had struck her the way it did. Perhaps it was the connection she had felt to her fallen soldiers, or perhaps it was something deeper, a recognition of a strength she had not expected to find in a species she had underestimated for so long. Whatever the reason, from that moment forward, everything between our people began to shift, one quiet conversation at a time, all because a single soldier had refused to stop walking through the silence left behind by a battle that was supposed to leave no one standing at all.